Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie Holder, and we got William on the phone. Um, William, oh goodness, um,
I'm here. It's William Green. You got me. I'm tagging in along with all of you.
all right. It
Now,
just
I think Ellie's in Arkansas, and I'm out here in Washington
That's
State.
right. I'm in the home of Clintons, the Clintons. You know they're doing stuff here, and I'm trying to shoo them away. Bill Clinton was here trying to do some stuff with the schools, and I called all the schools and the um, the state school board and to block some of the stuff they were doing. They want to cut back on some of the reduced lunches. And then the other one, they came. I don't know. Hillary was supposed to be here, and what I should do is just go visit them when they come out and remind them that about the boys on the track. And if you're new and you haven't heard about it, that's one of the biggest ones. I was a good friend of Linda Ives, and the Clintons were responsible for killing not only her son, but 9 other boys here in Arkansas in the 80s, 90s.
Which is why we don't call her Hillary anymore. We call her Hillary.
And here we go. And Mary says hello. We need to get Mary on this little platform with us too. I just need to find out her schedule so we can get her and then we'll do a threesome. What do you think?
That sounds bad. Maybe we ought to reiterate how we say that.
Maybe I should rephrase that. So, all right, I want to get going on this because we got really a lot of news, and oh boy. Um, so I want to start with there's a all right, there we go. They changed my lineup here, so I'm getting used to it, folks. After being gone for 8 months, no, about 5 months now. Anyway, there is a candy recall, folks, and it's from Palmer Candy. And I mean, this is big. I mean, I keep getting notices. And it's sold at Walmart, Dollar General, Target, some of the cheaper stores. I even think Safeway has it. But this is Palmer's, and it's caramel swirl pretzels, um, Munchy Melody, peanut butter snack mix. This is all Palmer. So, take a look at the brand, and all of it needs to be recalled. Anything with Palmer on it, if you got this candy, get rid of it. Get rid of it. All right. So now, William, oh, Mary had surgery on her hand today. All is good. Hope it wasn't your one you use. When they did my surgery, they did everything on my right arm, and it was like forever to get my right arm to work.
That's
So,
terrible. You can't salute, when you need to salute.
yeah. Um, Now, and this, William brought this up, and it was shortly before we got on here. Um, we have astronauts that are now considering SpaceX to get them home. They are stranded there. They said, well, they're looking at Boeing has conducted a variety of tests in space and on the ground to try to better understand the problem with its Starliner capsule. It's now docked at the International Space Station. Um, so we have astronauts stuck in space. So
Yeah,
they're
they
asked,
should probably not do one of those 200-mile deep dives into the ocean.
yeah,
That would
hope
be
not.
bad.
Um,
They need a ride.
they said
None
they
of that
can.
free fall.
Now we were asking, me and you were talking. What about food and all that? They said they can return. They can stay in space for at least another 6 to 8 months. That would
Oh,
extend their original stay that they had thought, especially for some that were only supposed to be there for 8 days to 30 days, and it's turned into a 9 month layover. Um, so
well, I
they
hope they
said,
don't have appointments.
Yeah. Um, they say a SpaceX Dragon capsule um, should be able to return the middle of this month, towards the end of the month. Possible shift in plans, announcing that what they said basically um, last Wednesday. And so we have astronauts stuck in space.
Lost
Huh.
in space.
Yeah. Now another weird. Here's a weird one, William. Supernatural sign of impending doom. Ugh. Yeah, don don don. Yeah. Mexico pyramid used by bloodthirsty tribe for human sacrifice. One of their um, pyramids, and it's
Yeah.
one basically that they used over and over and over again for human sacrifices, is now crumbling, and they don't know
Not
why.
crumbling. Oh man.
They don't know why. The Yakata Pyramid, part of this archaeology site, collapsed after heavy rainfall, and it eroded one of the sides, so it is totally crumbling apart. Now, of course, if you're supernatural and you are very mystic and live in Mexico, they say this is a sign of impending doom. Well, I say,
Well,
well, maybe they
you know
should.
what? I've been having the same problem with my Pop Tarts. I don't understand what's happening. They're crumbling. I don't know whether Mickey's
It's to
assailing
change
my
up its
Pop Tarts
GMOs.
tonight, or the lady that bags the food at the grocery store, but I keep getting crumbly Pop Tarts. So it
Yep,
must be the
mine are
same
doing
thing.
the same thing. It's a new flour with all this new GMO wheat
Well,
that they're using. And the other thing is the texture of Jello. What's wrong with it? In the cups and the pudding, something's not right. And then the cereal is even don't isn't right. I mean, what they do to my Fruit Loops, my Captain Crunch. Yeah.
uh,
All right. So
well,
I'm going to move on. Let's get away from the creepy mystic stuff.
all right.
Scientists found new evidence of hobbit-like creatures. Can you believe that? Yep. Indonesia, they found what they've discovered as an arm bone and possibly a leg bone. It did reveal that it belongs to a hominin um, that was approximately 3 feet tall. And they said it's proof that there is hobbits. What do you think, William?
Well, half the ladies in the Philippines are 3 feet tall.
Well, that it's got a
Maybe it's
unique
maybe
features,
it's
it
4 feet
says.
tall. Maybe it's 4 feet tall. I might be wrong.
So um, now now on to a kind of a serious note here. We have got hundreds of suspected cartel drones now that they're just not sending drugs over the border, but they're now starting to drop bombs. And what they do is they're now residential and farming communities just over the border to where, we just lost signal. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. If you lost signal, I StreamYard's been dropping me my signal for about 15, 20 minutes. So anyway, they are dropping bombs on I'm blinking in it. With the drones is
Just give it a second. We'll pop right back in.
with no signal, and it's not sending nothing to Mary. There we go. Hmm. Okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. And so I'm glad. Did you see me on screen, William?
Yep. You just
Okay,
popped in.
here we go. So, uh, boy, Ukraine brings war to Russia in massive drone strike on the military government targets. And Putin declared federal level state of emergency in Kursk. Um, and they did respond, but they're saying that some 700 Russian guided bombs were allegedly destroyed in the strike. Uh, but this happened last Friday, and as the fighting rages. But now we're starting to see, folks, a drone war. Now, William told me last night. I said, this could be. We could just all go to using nothing but drones. But he made a good point. William, you said that can't hit big enough targets, but it can take out our tanks.
Yeah, they're good at plinking people, maybe taking out a building or single objects, but they're just not big enough. They don't have large enough warheads to be really consequential in a battle engagement.
Yeah. And over the weekend, we were able to hit a bomb factory in Yemen because I want to move kind of onto Yemen. And, you know, uh, a lot of activity swarming towards the Red Sea and Yemen. But folks, don't worry about it because even William was telling me they're not going to put no boots on the ground there. We're not going to be fighting any boots on the ground war with Yemen. I think that's the least of their worries. That and Somalia, because Somalia was going for a while too.
Yeah, well, there's no point because all you have to do is use air power to destabilize them, and the Yemenis will come in and take care of the Houthis.
Right,
They've been trying to do that anyway. So there's no point in putting boots on the ground when boots are already on the ground.
now what you guys might not realize is now we've had problems with Yemen before. Now half of Yemen is terrorist, and they're Houthi and they're ISIS, and and we find Houthi and ISIS and ISIL or Hezbollah and Hamas and all this. We find this all the way through the Middle East. I mean, Iraq is even almost half terrorists now. But now you've got your regular Yemenis army that's there. But until they can get control of these terrorists, I think we're just going to continue to have problems off the coast in the Red Sea. Because if you remember, a few years ago, they were firing upon ships. In fact, I think they even tried to hit the Carl Vinson. Um,
They're still doing it. They're still firing at
yeah,
civilian traffic.
and they're getting a lot of their missiles and their equipment or their military bombs and equipment from Iran. William, Iran seems to be um, loading everybody up over there. Uh,
They're cruising for a bruise, and they just do that every once in a while.
because they give stuff to Yemen, and they're giving stuff up to the Hezbollah, and they're giving Hamas firepower. They do it for Iraq. They've done it for Afghanistan that I know of, and even Russia, and Russia's not only getting missiles from uh, Iran, but they're getting it from North Korea because they just fired some missiles from North Korea. Now, the other thing, speaking of missiles, and William would tell you a lot more about it than me, is the ballistic missiles Georgia that's being sent in.
Yeah, so that's a missile submarine, but they fired Tomahawks, and Tomahawks are like a cruise missile that are fired off from a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And so they fly at low levels, so it's not ballistic missiles. Although initially that's what it was supposed to be, is a ballistic missile submarine. They use it now. They rearmed it with conventional weapons like Tomahawks. So there's that, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other thing you're going to have to really explain this one is RIMPAC that's going on.
So RIMPAC just got over. Every 2 years, biannually, we have a big exercise in the Pacific. And during RIMPAC, while they're doing all their maneuvers and whatnot, they have what's called SINK-X. And during SINK-X, they take out a couple old ships from mothball, and U.S. Assets, as well as other allies we have in the Pacific, take turns basically taking shots at these boats to sink them. Well, they did that again this year, just like they did in 2002 and in 2000. But this year they brought out it's basically a helicopter carrier, an old one, and they were having a hard time sinking because it's a big boat. It's almost the size of a Nimitz class aircraft carrier, and they were blowing the bow off the thing, and I even saw one where they fired on it, and the missile hit the side and skipped off and jumped across the ocean a little bit. And so then they were using, I think, F-18s were bombing it, and they were using all kinds of different ordnance on it. And we've been having problems with the Chinese building ships really fast. Well, at the end of this, when the navies all got finished with the boats, a B-1 bomber came out with a single bomb, and before the smoke had cleared from that aircraft carrier, it was underwater with a single weapon. And turns out it was a very cheap weapon. It was a World War or Cold War iron bombs that they just put a guidance system on it. And yeah, it just completely took out that carrier quick as could be. And so, yeah, I think they're sending a message to China a little bit with that.
Yeah, and the other thing is the meetings that they're having right now, because China, I think it was China, Russia, and I think North Korea. I think his sister went to this thing, is what I was hearing, and Iran, and making to have a stronger alliance. Now I know they're starting to go through the islands. Now, what I heard this morning, though, William, is Philippines is fed up. They're tired of they say harassment, not only from North Korea, but from China.
They and our old enemy, North Vietnam, are sortying together out in the Pacific so that they have mutual backup when they have to deal with these problem Coast Guard ships of China.
Yeah. You know what I think,
So,
William, with this, and I could be wrong because we got stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine, and then we got stuff with Israel that I'm going to bring up in a little bit. But it's almost like China's going, yeah, just pay attention to what's going on over there, and don't watch what we're going to do, because they're starting to build up some islands over there, according to my friend in Taiwan, my source.
well, they tried to start another island over there in the Pacific, add on to it, I guess is or annex it, and the Philippines stopped them.
Yeah.
Stopped them cold. Didn't let them even get started.
And so when I see that they're banding together and they're having more and more meetings, and then when I had heard that his sister may have went to one of these, she worries me. She's the one. I'm not so worried about Kim Jong-un. He's kind of like Clinton. He's just going to go do his own thing. But his sister, and even raising his daughter to want war and power.
Well, I've always had a thing for Kim's sister. You know how I am.
She is. I got to say, she is very pretty.
She's a spooky lady. I'll
But
tell you what.
if he ended up dead, I would wonder if she poisoned him. Because she really wants the power, and to be honest, I think the father should have given all the power to her, because she was the one wanting it and eager. Where Kim Jong-un
he was already talking that way. That she was the most studious of the two children.
She's fierce. I mean, she to me reminds me of the Queen. Off with your head,
Yeah, something like that.
Or even
I
that German guy that
like
was throwing people off on the spikes. That's how I think of her. Is she's just venomous, definitely. I don't want to get off track, but the thing is I really do think China is saying, go look over there. Now China's economy isn't doing well, but it doesn't matter, because everything is being sourced to China for production economically. And I keep seeing on a lot of the mainstream news, Williams, where they're failing, they're gonna, it's a disaster, they're gonna end up going bankrupt, and the country's gonna fall apart. I just don't see it. I don't see it. When you're sourced
we don't need to be propping them up out of sympathy. That's for damn
sure. Yeah, because it's feel sorry for China. To me, it's feel sorry for China week last week, and it was like no, and then everything just kind of shifted. Folks, I didn't want to get into political stuff. You guys get enough of that on the news, so I don't want to get into the politics or Trump or Harris or any of what's going on with them until we get closer to the election. So you're probably not going to hear really much political news from me and William for next. I want to get you guys going on what's going on in the world and the real news, because it's. I'm not going to say it's fearful or scary, but when we have got a world at war at this point, we got it at our border, we got it in China, we got it with Taiwan, North Korea's acting up, and then, as we move over to Israel. Now, with Israel, though, William, they put out a statement today that they're pretty close. Now, the Israel Defense Minister, Gallant, I think is what his name is, he spoke with Lloyd Austin for the 7th time in recent days. Now, they have been trying to discuss a ceasefire or a peaceful for everybody to calm down. But now Hezbollah is unwilling. The leader has come out and said, no, it's not going to stop, folks.
Now, actually, for safety.
So when Lloyd Austin spoke with Gallant, what they're doing is they're now getting prepared in readiness for the threats, and they're thinking a lot of it is a lot of mouth from Hezbollah that you get. Hezbollah and Hamas does it, even ISIS. You get a lot of mouth. Yemen, the guy in Yemen, I think you told me about, William. A lot of mouth and a lot of rising threats going on in the Middle East. And we found out that Iran is currently conducting training exercises and issued a notice to airmen that they are moving forward. The readiness of their Air Force, their armies, they are going to get them ready. They could be moving forward. Now, Hezbollah did fire the 30 Kush rockets into northern Israel. And they said that it may have been in response to Israel's strike on Lebanese port city, is what they're thinking is it caused that problem. And so they are having a big meeting on Thursday, and it's set to include all the allies and even the Egyptians. And now what I heard today is Israel has put a 24-hour alert that they haven't done. Now, I checked my phone today. It's not doing the siren right this moment, but the siren's alert and what it defined out to was ready to strike. William, I don't know if you have anything to add to it, but
the notices of incoming missiles now has been, they've got a system now that they can do it by the region in which the missiles are coming into. So we may not be getting those alerts outside of Israel now. So that's a new step up in their system that they've done in just the last few days.
Yeah. And the thing about this is now Iran getting prepared. Okay. When I looked at this, looked at the article where I got some of this information, and I went digging for it. It was like, are they really ready, or is it more mouthy? And folks, because like I said, when I left in March, I think March was one of my last shows before I just recently came back, and they were doing the same thing. We're going to do this tomorrow. We're going to do it tomorrow, or get ready. And we have been hearing this for what, a year, William?
Well, after they hit our people at I think it was Tower 12, Tower 3 in Jordan, and we also had those casualties at that Air Force base, we sent them a pretty swift message with a barrage of missiles, and they took the point and quieted down for a while. Well, they've got their backs back up, stiffened up, whatnot, and they're on the a tear again, which is what they always do. They always claim it's retribution for this, retribution for that.
And
I think actually what it is retribution for being born, but hey, I don't know.
Now, as of yesterday, Israel sent the evacuation orders for very southern tip of Gaza, and as far as I know, they were pretty much emptying out, and said that there was going to be heavy artillery there. So they have, here's another evacuation. starting in Gaza, and they were talking about going through again because, you can go through. If you look at wartime, and William, you can even probably explain this way better than me. Of you swoop through just like they did. They started in with Gaza with Israel, and they swooped through, and they pretty much got rid of a lot of what Hezbollah was doing, and they moved up into what close to Syria and Lebanon and Damascus, right around there. But
Awesome.
but what people don't realize is as they swept through, it's just like what happened in Iraq. When they went through, of course they're going to go back to the where that's already been fired to get control of the people or get control of the area and the land. And we see now with Iraq. And when we left Iraq in the hands of ISIS. Now, and I think Netanyahu has mentioned this so many times in his speeches. He says he does not want to go through and then have to turn around and feel so and have to help the Palestinians again to get rid of Hezbollah or Hamas or Houthi or whoever decides to be, or even ISIS to jump in and take this ground and try to control the Palestinians again and torture and hurt them. See, that's what a lot of people don't understand is, folks, there's Palestinians, yeah, that are hardcore and they don't like what's going on and they hate Netanyahu and they hate the Jews, but most of those are the radicals and most of them are connected to a terrorist group in one sort or another. There are Palestinians that are just crying for help that are being held hostage by Hezbollah. And
you always have to go back through where you've been through and do sweeps, because just like you said, because there's now a vacuum in that area, they'll come back in.
Well, that's part of war, though, William. If you think about it, that's just
the other is they can hide without being hit. Remember that this is a guerrilla movement. It's not guerrilla as in like when we were in Vietnam in the jungles.
No,
it's urban, but it's an urban guerrilla,
urban civil type.
Yeah, so you have to continually go back through these areas as they repopulate as quickly as they can.
It's just like what happened in Yemen, because we were going at it and we thought we had it all. We thought Yemen authorities had it under control, and come to find out, no, because more terrorists and Houthi rebuilt itself up with ISIS, because ISIS was down there for a while, right about the time of when that group of soldiers got killed during Obama administration. So in the same way, if we move over and take a look at what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, now it's the same urban type of civil war, because they sent in drones and they blew up a whole bunch of stuff, of military equipment of Russia. But William, you said last night, they moved in, but they may not have the equipment or the means to get back out, or to hold the line of the military line.
Right. So they made an incursion into Russia. They had a battalion strength of about 3,000. Already, just over this weekend, they've been attrited down to about 1,500. So they're now at half strength. They don't really have a way to be resupplied. They were making a run for, in Kursk, there's a nuclear power station. And remember, the Russians still have control that power station down near Zaporizhia. So the idea was that they would make a run into Kursk, get control of the power station, hold that power station hostage long enough to make a trade for the Zaporizhia power station. Okay. And this, from what I understand, and some of this is just scuttlebutt, but during that peace conference that NATO had, the last one they had in conference that Russia wasn't invited to.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise. This idea had come up. They decided this was going to be the thing that they were going to try, because the Zaporizhia power station not just powers Ukraine, but it powers a fair part of Europe, Eastern Europe, and it's been shut down. Basically, it's a self-sustaining mode right now, and Ukraine was kind of upset with it, and they even fired some artillery at it and damaged one of the cooling towers. So, yeah, there's some folks out there right now that are delusional.
Well, you can have a handful of F-15s or the F-22s, or we can hand them handfuls of tanks, and we can give them. In fact, we just got through giving them more money, 1.2 mil, I believe, and
1.2 billion. Yeah.
so we can keep giving them the little bits and Ukraine has had little bits. It's had a little army, but it's mostly just rebels that have been fighting on the Russian line for 20 years, William.
Well, there's always
Because I did shows on this like 8-9 years ago, where they were going after, Ukraine was going after Russia over Crimea. So
yeah, well, there's always
there's and what I'm trying to get to is they can have this little handful of army, but when you go up against Mother Russia, you're talking of it's like throwing sticks. Just throwing sticks and throwing rocks. They may get quite a few of their tanks. They may be able to hit um, a power station. But William, I just have never seen, and the sources I got over there and the reporters over there on the ground that are in Ukraine and they're in Russia all say that this is just a fly that's just bugging Russia, and Russia's just playing with them.
There's a reason that Russia's called the Russian bear. Is you might go and sting it or punch it or mess around with it, but when it turns itself at you, it's going to maul you down.
And that's kind of what they've been doing, because they Ukraine did amazing. I mean, they threw a lot of missiles at them, and Russia was able to handle it all. But not only that, but when they came back, it was fierce. And see, the news, that's what gets me. The news and the media won't tell you what happens, what Russia does to them, and what it destroys in Ukraine, or the battalions, or the planes, our planes that we give them.
We're off.
Yeah, I just lost connection.
Uh-oh.
No, there we go. All right, so folks, realize this. I mean, Ukraine has been starting urban civil 5 years. I'm out again. I'll just wait it out. So
yeah, it's Karen's in the room.
again. Am I back? There you go. I see me again. So,
All right. Well, I'll probably see you in about 4 more seconds.
okay. And the clock is rolling. So,
Okay.
um, so to kind of, yeah, we're back. So really, folks, when you look at this Russian-Ukraine war, it is something that has been happening for 20 plus years that they're not telling you about. Senator Graham and quite a few senators went over there. Like, Karen, you remember when we first started up, we were talking about Ukraine. And how many years ago was that? And this was fighting that they had before then, so 5 6 7 years. But when you look back at the border wars, um, someone that I know that's out of Georgia, and then some of these reporters that were talking about it said, you know, there was these gangs. It wasn't the gangs that became the Azov Battalion.
Right.
They were just a little gang that was, basically they were using shotguns and guns against Russians on the border with people that lived there. It was street to street back then. So, well, Karen says about 5 years. About 5 years ago, I was talking about
Once these civil wars brew up, unless they're starved out, basically, they will consume every piece of war weaponry on Earth until they give up.
Yeah. Well, how long was Afghan war?
Outside to say, okay, guys, no more.
How long was the Afghan war? I mean, that was long.
Oh my goodness, that was 20 years, Ellie.
Yeah. See, I'm not saying Arabs just don't give up, but some of these countries, that like the Azov Battalion, and Zelensky, they got him in as the what a butterball actor to play the role to keep it going and to get the money and billions of dollars from different countries to support their anger just against people that are in Russia. I mean, really, if you think about it, William, the thing that got me, Karen's talking about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were shooting at each other because there were Russians in Ukraine, and Ukraine wanted them to speak their language, not Russian. And of course, Russians weren't going to agree to that, and so they were taking them out and shooting them. And it was this big civil war. They were shooting over, huh?
And that was an excuse because before that, it was Ukrainians or Russians not selling the property to each other next door.
Yep.
So stuff builds up from some animosity from some silly source, and then it gets inflamed, and then pretty soon you've got actual military people in uniform fighting. And then it takes an international group to come along and say, hey, guys, this is enough.
Yeah, and then the other big one that they were fighting over was because of the power plant when it blew. And of course, they're saying, "Hey, Russia has to take care of it. Russia's got to do it." And so when Russia stepped in, now there's this big war because they said, "No, the power plant isn't Russia's; it's ours." Well, yeah, and now that they got money. So
before that, it was Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2.
That's right.
It's always something. And then after a while, they get this money and arms rolling in, they become dependent.
Yep.
It becomes their job. It's their new employment. And so somebody's got to, in the international community, step up and say, okay, guys, this is enough. It's a complete waste of money at this point.
That's what I was saying when, we wanted to send them, billions and billions of dollars when this administration got into place. And when the Biden administration got in there and they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to fund them. And it's like, oh my gosh, why are they doing that? They could, what's next? And I basically said, what's next? And then they were like wanting to fund the Somalians and start, be over in the war and put boots on the ground there. And I'm like, why are we funding these urban wars like we were talking about? This is an urban war, nothing that should turn into Iran and Russia and us and NATO for one.
Yeah, now NATO is supposed to be a defensive force. We're not supposed to be an offensive force, which was the big no-no that Russia did. Russia came into Ukraine, and so technically NATO wasn't being offensive. But now NATO's run into Russia, right, with the Ukrainians. So now they've let themselves become offensive. And it's always a problem for the United States with our allies to let them know we will be defensive, but we don't want to be offensive, because as soon as we become offensive, everybody wants us to fight their wars for them. And the big problem with that is if we do finish a war for them, then they turn around and are angry at us for being in their area.
Yeah.
So there's no point for the United States to fight a war of aggression for any other nation except for the United States, and we just don't have a reason for that.
Well, even what's going on in over there with Taiwan, it's almost the same thing, except for China's the one that's being agitator.
China was our ally.
Agitator. There you go.
And Japan was our enemy.
Yeah.
Now it's just flip-flopped.
Yeah. And a quick mention, that 7.1 earthquake that hit over there. And they still say it hasn't affected the power plant, so that's good. And then I think they had another 7.0 down in South America. But so really, everything that we see with Taiwan, we can't let Taiwan go, but at the same time, and we can't. The big thing about that, William, I think, is China building the islands.
Right.
Because they could. What if they build an island? What if they build an island off of, off their coast that is as big as some of these countries?
Well, it'd take a lot of work, and by the time they got that far, I think we would have pushed that country back into the sea, because it would just be getting too big. And it would really affect global trade. So
yeah, and see, no one's and the other thing no one's even talking about right now that concerns me is Russia wanting to take over the islands of Alaska. And you know what? They have every right to, because it's the same. It's pardon my French, same damn thing that's going on in Ukraine. Russia is stepping in, and they're having to take care of the people because their own country can't do it. Now, I don't understand how come the state of Alaska or even the United States can't make sure that the people along those islands that stretch almost to Russia, why we can't take care of them.
We have the Air Force up there to turn them back,
but they're not taking care of them, and all their food and their for the poor, or their medical supplies, or even other things that they need, even being powered in certain ways with electric and their help with their water and their gas, is all being done by Russia. And Russia's saying, hey, if we're going to have one of them places, one of them cities, then why not just give it to us? And then they started moving the ships in up there.
That's the problem with global trade is it starts out being trade, and then pretty soon it's territorial. That's why we have ambassadors all over the world. They're
Mm-hmm.
because there's always a give and take, a push and pull. Every border is up for dispute everywhere, all the time.
That's why we have walls, except for along Mexico. That's why we have
Well,
walls.
that's we're lucky to our north that the Canadians aren't really interested in coming south,
No.
right? But in the past, we fought wars with English over Canada, and also the French, and also the Indians.
Yes.
And so it's just that every border for every country everywhere is always up for disputes. Even island nations that have borders, way apart from each other. First it's fishing rights, then it's trade, and then, it's like you said, why don't we just have Tonga become part of Fiji?
Yeah. Well, even Hawaii is talking about, the Hawaiian people are saying they're more Indonesian, and they're not really they should not be a part of the United States. And they're even looking at breaking away from the United States. And it's like, okay, we got Russia doing that. And then the people of Hawaii wanting their own. But
yeah, and
William, you can only almost agree with them, because look at what we did to the American Indians. And they were like, hey, we want our own stuff.
Sure,
you're on our land.
The second we leave, China moves in, and then they start crying for the United States to come save them. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You're better off just holding the line.
But I have to agree with Hawaii, because Hawaii is a whole different culture than what we are. Same as the people up in Alaska. It's a whole different culture, and we've kind of invaded them, like we did with the American Indians. And it's not because we're white and we're right. No, I think it's people wanting to be to those cultures. I mean, people love it over there in Hawaii. They love it up in Alaska. They love it in Canada with the Canadians. Some even like being in Mexico.
They can't defend themselves from larger aggressors.
Right. But it's going to be interesting to see under this next. I'm going to say the next two administrations, to see what happens with Hawaii and Alaska. But not only that, with around our border, the whole border thing.
Why? How long to really have good representation in Congress? How long do you think it would take if we left and China moves in for them to get that representation again?
We need term limits. I swear. If we're not going to put in age limits, because there's 80, 85 that there we go. We just went again. Limits. We need term limits. We
what the United States really
Okay,
needs
so I
right
think
now.
we're back on. Karen, all right, can you see me? Now, before we go, one of the things we did want to talk about is the stock market, the big of the stock market. And William found a lot of information on that. So, William, go ahead. And I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
So what happened there, we found out over the weekend, was there were a bunch of troop movements moving towards the Middle East that hadn't yet been announced. But people in the business community saw it before anybody else. They saw it before the news media and I guess us non-military type neophytes. And so the rest of us thought, well, the stock market's going crazy and maybe we should all get out. But as soon as the State Department and the Pentagon came out and the White House came out and said, no, we're moving troops, ships, this, that, and the other in mass to the Middle East, then of course the stock market all of a sudden stabilized and it's bouncing back up. It wasn't because of the concern about a war as much as it was about having all these military movements and people reacting to those movements before the rest of us and the news, Main Street News, recognized what was going on. And so for all the world, and even not just here in the United States, but around the world, they thought we were going into a stock market crash, when in fact we were just moving ships, troops, and airplanes quietly.
Well, now
Japan
fell though. Japan had their stock market almost crash.
Yeah, it's serious stuff. Serious. And we have to be careful with our allies that they know what we're doing. Apparently, serious financial problems here in the world. When the dollar or the yen suddenly devalued, all of a sudden debts scream through the ceiling and everything else. We have to be more faithful in allowing the world to know that, hey, this is happening. Don't get nervous because it's going to happen.
Yeah. So really, it was a big, I'm wondering how many insider trading deals happened and they knew it was going to happen. That was my thing, because Warren Buffett, the day or two before it all went down quick, he sold everything. He started selling out at everything he had. Now he's buying back.
Probably recognized what was going to happen before the rest of us saw it go through its totality. And he said, hey, I just don't need to be a part of this.
So I was wondering if there has been loss on the political side, because, like with Warren Buffett, or even Nancy Pelosi, that they knew this was fixing to happen, and they didn't do nothing to stop it. But I don't even think they believed it was going to happen, William. And then it did, and they, of course, they made out.
Actually, they just made out temporarily, because the market will bounce back, and the money they think that they were able to get hold of, it has now evaporated, right? So, yeah.
So, anyway, William, we're at the end of the show, and we will be back on Wednesday, folks. And remember, just a reminder, it'll be trivia on this Friday. Invite family and friends for trivia. Everybody likes that. I think I'm going to do some movie or something. I don't know. William is already saying he's going to win, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's me against the girls. I'm going to lose.
Yeah. Where's Susan today? Susan, I didn't see Susan in here. We're missing Linda. So I'll have to hit up Linda, or Karen might, and Mary might hit Linda, and say, hey, we're back. We're doing very well over on the Facebook side. I want to thank those watching in Facebook for sharing and watching and telling others about the show. So, William, it's been great. I'm glad to be back, and we will be back on Wednesday. Wednesday's kind of up in the air. It could be me and William doing a bunch of news, and I'm trying to get lifestyle news back in um, and get back on track again. I'm feeling good. I did an hour walk all over Walmart today, and I'm still doing fine. So I think I'm back. I think I'm back. So, all right, folks. William, I thank you very much. You're a great
You're welcome.
co-host.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, and Mickey gets the gravy. We're worrying
Yeah.
his dog. We were talking about this. You know, every time we talk about more shows, she's giving them the eye. So I'm thinking it's more gravy. We might have to have viewers send in gravy money. So,
That's funny.
all right. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and subscribe and hit the like. You know, I've seen a lot of them with the like button and saying like and share, but they're saying like and ring the bell before the show. No, folks, like and do the bell after you make sure it's not clickbait. A lot of clickbait out there. And it's so come on back and watch us for true news. We care about what you guys know, and we're here to inform you about what's going on around the world and not just about politics. So, with that, William, we will see you on Wednesday. And so, like I
Same
said,
bat time, same bat channel.
yeah, same bat channel. And so, definitely come on back, folks. And we will see you soon on Wednesday. And don't forget, Trivia on Friday.